Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Open University.
Hi students, welcome to the BBA lecture series at Chaitanya Studio of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Open University. Today we will start Unit 1, that is coaching in the block 3, coaching, motivation and emotion. Let us see the learning objective of our today's session. Today we will learn the concept of coaching employees. Then we will study the difference between a boss and a coach. Lastly, we will see the stages of an ideal coaching process. What do you mean by coaching? Coaching is a system of providing training. Coaching is the practice of giving sufficient direction, instruction and training to the person, or we can say employee or a group of employees, so as to achieve goals or even in developing specific skills. Next we will see coaching with a professional is a practice of supporting an individual referred to as the client or coaches through the process of achieving specific personal and professional results. It is a structures, models and methodologies, but there are numerous methodologies, numerous structures and numerous types of teaching. Next, coaching can be referred to as a personalized development program for employees. Coaching provides employees a platform where they can express their fears, weakness and other professional concerns without worrying about its effect on their job. Reason is coach is different from the boss, so there an employee can express their strength, weakness, issues, etc. Next we will see the difference between a coach and a boss. Boss in number 1 in information. Boss is concerned with the accomplishment of task. Rarely he is concerned about the subordinates' progress. Boss never shares the secrets with the subordinates, where in case of coach always looks for the success of followers and therefore share every piece to the subordinates, to the followers related to the subject. Next is detailed knowledge. Boss is the key mediator between the subordinates and management. Whenever management needs any information, they always calls to the boss to get the details related to business strategies, policies, organizational plans, etc. In the case of subordinates also, they approaches to the boss to get the details to resolve their issues in the task. Next, detailed knowledge, whereas in the case of coach is not concerned about all this information, because coach's primary goal is to provide guidance to perform a task in the most appropriate way. Next is problem solving. In case of problem solving, a subordinate can easily look up to the boss. Reason for solution to the problems that arise in day-to-day work. Boss has to provide the solution because the final responsibility lies on the boss, where in case of coaches, coach only provides supports and guidance that enables followers to solve the problems. Next is communication. Communication is very important part in our day-to-day life. Let us see in the case of boss. A boss will always restrict the communication pattern to certain limit to keep up the authority and power. It may or may not be two-way process, but coach is always open and believes in the two ways communication. Next, the blame game. You must have observed in your organization the blame game. We'll see what it is exactly. When there is a mistake at a work, the blame is always on the subordinates. It may question his leadership abilities if he takes the responsibility. It arises the question in his leadership skill. It opposite in case of coach who conducts a self-assessment whenever there is a mistake in his guided program. Next is superiority syndrome. What do you mean by superiority syndrome? Superiority syndrome means superiority affecting the relationship of a boss and his subordinates. A boss usually remains calm in case his work is going smoothly, in case work is done as expected. The communication is always limited and task oriented, whereas in case of coach, constantly check on the performance of the follower and keeps asking question to understand the problem area. Coaches always gives keen importance to what his followers want to speak. Coaches are always active listener. The process, will next see the process of coaching. Coaching is a deliberate program planned by HR managers for employees who have potential but are unable to use it for achievement of the prescribed goal. Here in this case, two parties are must. We will see who are they. Two important parties to a coaching process. Next we will see the who are the parties. Number one is coach, who is expert in his field and is rarely connected to employee as a boss or immediate senior. And next party is the employee, who seeks expert advice of the coach to achieve the results. The coaching process, coach should possess some basic skills like number 1 empathy, number 2 expertise, number 3 patience, and number 4 is listening skills. We will see the 4 stages in the coaching process. Number 1 is relate, number 2 is focus, number 3 is activate, and number 4 review. We will see all this process in details in our next slides. Number 1 relate. Here we need to understand building a sound relation with the employee to be coached. Next, asking some general questions. General questions like the coach has to ask the employees about the personal details, about the family background, to build one relationship, to build a relationship between both of them. Two important factors that help in relating to employees is openness and positive attitude. Next is focus. Here the coach has to maintain the conversation towards the desired point. Coaching process is governed by emotions of the employees, that coach should be attentive towards this aspect. Next, should ask a question that relate with the objective of the activity. The coach should not derail to his own topic, from his own topic. Number 3 is activate. Activate should be, this is the third stage and it is very important stage where this is action oriented stage and deals with enabling employee to act towards the desired goals. Coach has to constantly challenge the limits. Coach has to constantly challenge the limits of an employee to give his 100%. Coach has to take the worst cases just to worst case scenario just to explain the situation. Next is develop the thinking method. Coach has to develop the thinking method, thinking of an employee to work for the goal. Last is the coach has to act as an anchor while the employee perform. Number 4, this is the review method. Here this is the last and very important. After conducting the coaching, the review is very important part. The action and formulate future course of action. Review emphasize the positive aspect of an employee performance. It focusing on good things of an employee accomplish will motivate them. Coach should motivate the employee by bringing up the positive things in the employee. Next, guidelines for coaching. This is the guidelines for the coaching. Here, to make a coaching program effective, following guidelines can be used. Number 1 is clarity. In every field, clarity is must. Clarity is very important. Here also clarity of objective is very important. It provided the requisite detail to be covered in the coaching session. Next is simple and concise. The coaching should be in a simple language and in a concise form. Simple and concise means a very effective and a simple language which can be understood by the employees. Statement should be simple, short and well articulated. Number 3, avoid generalization. Here we need to understand this point. We need to avoid the general terms. General terms is like all, never, always. This type of word should be avoided. As far as possible, not fit, these words are not fit for coaching session. The coach has to be very precise. Number 4, avoid evaluative terms. Here negative terms should be avoided. Use of words like bad, ineffective, etc. should be avoided. Employee should be given a descriptive view. Descriptive view is giving the total full description of the scenario, of this situation, rather than giving them an evaluative version. Number 5 is personalized feedback. Personalized feedback means an employee looks for his specified advice and agrees for coaching session because it is an informal conversation. Feedback should also come from coach as his self-evaluation, and an advice should be given only when it is asked for, because if other party is not interested in your advice, if you give, it is of no use. The employee will not accept your advice. So it is a waste of time and energy. So it is very important in personal life as well. If anyone asks your advice, then only you should give. Receiving feedback. In this, there are various stages of collecting the feedbacks. We will see one by one. Number 1 is set the stage for requesting feedback. Coach have to set the stage to get the feedback. Number 2, request feedback on specific strengths and weakness or actions. Coach should request for the feedback which is on specific strength, which is on weakness or on actions taken. Ask people to use a frame of reference when giving feedback. Use frame of reference means the feedback should be in a comparative form. the coach has to be compared, or the Mr. X or Y has to be checked, has to be compared with the party Y or coach Y, coach Z, etc. Number 4, request feedback based on previously agreed upon standard, goals or expectations. Feedback should be asked on the number 4, request feedback based on previously agreed upon standard, goals or expectation. Previously agreed upon standard means before starting the session, the standards which coach has set, the goals which coach has set, the expectations of the employees has set, the coach needs to ask the feedback upon the coach should ask the feedback on these standards, the set goals and the according to the expectations. Number 5 is actively listening. Coach main task, main quality is actively listening. Actively listening what is being said. Next, specify next step end of the conversation by thinking of few changes you are able to make in your future actions or behaviors. Here we will sum up, we will see what we have seen up till now is elaborated on the importance of coaching in improving employees' performance. Next, we have studied the coaching is a process of identifying the weakness areas in an employee's performance and then providing him with the right direction and action plans for improvement. Coach has to make employee work in a right direction. The main aim of the coaching process is to train the employee to work for the organizational goal. If the employee fails, then the objective of the organization fails. So, this is the reason coaching process is being organized by the HR department to work for the benefit of an employee. Without coaching, without giving the right direction, if the employee is knowledgeable, accurate or hardworking, will not be able to reach to the proper direction. This is the reason always companies, organizations looks for the coaching, looks for the training of an employee to give them a better, a proper and a focused vision to fulfill, to work for the fulfillment of their goals. The various stages also we have seen of the coaching process include relating. The coach should always relate to the situation, always relate to the employees. The coach should be the training should be focused. The coach has to relate, the main important process is to relate. The coach has to relate with the situation, has to relate with the employee by asking the general questions. Next should be focus. Coach has to be very precise, should be very focused, should work on the task, on the objective for which the training is being organized. If the coach fails to focus, then the training program will be derailed. So, here focus is very important. Next is activate, which we have already studied, is activate, the third stage, where employee has to activate. The coach has to activate the employee so that employee work effectively to reach their target, to achieve the goal. So it is also a very important stage. Number 4 is review. Review after the process gets over, the review part, which is very important. The review should be taken on the review should be taken by the employee by the employee for coach, so that the coach understood, the department understood how the coaching process has been taken out, has been looked on, and also involve using high level of understanding about the human nature. This all helps the employee, helps the employer to understand the human nature. Next is coaching requires different types of skill like listening, empathy, so as to build a cordial environment. Here the coach has to have the skills of listening. He has to be a good listener. Without listening, he won't be able to understand the situation, the issues, the problems of the employee. And if the coach don't understand, fails to understand, then he won't be able to teach, he won't be able to guide the employees in the proper direction. So here the coach has to be a very good listener. In simple terms, he has to be an active listener. Next, empathy. He has to be empathize. He has to go with the flow of an employee to understand the issues, the problems, the lacking of an employee, and so that he will be able to guide in a proper direction. Here this all qualities build a cordial environment. If the coaching process goes well, it will create a cordial environment. Now we are concluding our session. Thank you. स्वाध्यायः परमः